All right, here we go. Welcome into Philadelphia Eagles Now. Chase Sr. here with you. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Coming up, Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Dallas Cowboys in Week 17 on Sunday. Already just 2 weeks to go in the 2024 regular season. By the way, this game has been moved up to 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. It was slated for that late afternoon window at Lincoln Financial Field, but now it's in the early afternoon. And coming up on today's show, going to preview this football game between the Birds and the Cowboys. Always a great rivalry inside the NFC East. But before we do that, I want to spend a moment saying thank you to everybody out there, all of the real ones, for supporting the show. We just got past 96,000 subscribers. My goal from training camp was to get this channel to 100,000 subscribers this season. So for all of you who continue to watch the content, whether it be regular YouTube videos, YouTube shorts, our live shows, our watch parties, I'm so grateful for all of you, especially during this holiday season, taking time out of your days and nights to join the show and watch everything that I do. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do so right now for informative, insightful, entertaining, thought-provoking Eagles coverage on a daily basis and year-round. And be sure to join the movement here at Chat Sports. Traveling back home to Philadelphia tomorrow for Christmas, going to spend a couple of days in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. That's where my mom and my dad grew up. I'm from Westchester. My dad's coming up from Nashville, sister from D.C., and so I will be traveling on Christmas Day. To everybody out there who is traveling, be safe, whether it be through the air, on the ground, on a train. Hope you have a wonderful and safe holiday week. The coverage, by the way, and the content will continue right here on the show. All right, let's get our preview underway here on this Tuesday. Eagles' 10-game winning streak snapped on Sunday against the Washington Commanders in that wild game. And am I concerned about the Eagles coming off of that defeat? No. I chalk it up more as a fluky loss as compared to a concerning loss. You don't have to be concerned after every L in the National Football League. I mean, the Eagles hadn't lost a game since Week 4 in September. It's Christmas tomorrow. So what they embarked on was really special. A 10-game winning streak that is so rare in the NFL, which has a lot of parity, a lot of talented teams. And in that 10-game winning span, Philadelphia beat multiple teams who are going to be in the playoffs and with a winning record. Also, their quarterback got knocked out on the second drive of the game. Jalen Hurts suffering that concussion in the first quarter. The two drives that he had started resulted in 14 points. And so when you're without your quarterback in a game of that magnitude, because Washington has so much to play for and Philadelphia's on the road, it's the second time they've played this year, it's going to alter and throw a wrench into your game plan. And then I thought this game was very uncharacteristic for Philadelphia because during this 10-game winning streak, they've been potent on offense. They've been the number one defense in the NFL. They've been really stout on special teams. They've manufactured a lot of turnovers. They haven't turned it over a lot. They've played clean. They've played disciplined. But this game was just so wonky. And the Eagles had a lot of self-inflicted wounds and mistakes that they committed. A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, all having those big drops in key moments. The Eagles forced 5 turnovers, scored 33 points, and still lost this game. That's so rare. But here's what's key. They only scored 6 points off of the final 4 giveaways. You have to be able to take advantage when the other team gives you the football and seeds momentum. Philadelphia couldn't do that. It kept Washington alive. And then some other things. C.J. Gardner-Johnson got ejected. Multiple defensive starters missed time due to injury. The Eagles had a lot of penalties. Their kickoff coverage unit, special teams-wise, was bad penalties, and it did turn into a little bit of a ref show early in that game. But with all that being said, it doesn't mean that I think the Eagles are going to roll in this game because this Cowboys team over the last month and a half or so has played really good football. They've won 4 of 5 with Cooper Rush as their starting quarterback. Rico Dowdle has been running it well. They've suffered from a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. Trayvon Diggs out for the rest of the year. Overshown, who was turning into just a dynamite player alongside Micah Parsons. He's also out for the year after he suffered another leg injury. But this Cowboys team has rallied. They've played hard under Mike McCarthy, and because of that, I think he's earned another contract with Dallas, which I think is a good thing for the Eagles because we know what Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott are, and you like where Philadelphia is as compared to Dallas as an organization, but I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Mike McCarthy has coached his ass off. He's done a hell of a job, as has his defensive coordinator, Mike Zimmer. Remember early in the year when the Cowboys were giving up just an embarrassing amount of points? Well, their defense has really started to turn the corner. And so I expect this to be a feisty, tough, rugged game, as is usually the case with divisional games, especially in the historic NFC East. If Philadelphia does win this game, they do win the NFC East outright, and they still have an opportunity to get the number 1 seed in the NFC. They're going to need some things to go their way in order to have home field advantage going through Lincoln Financial Field. They're going to have to win out. They're going to have Minnesota lose to Green Bay. They're going to have the San Francisco 49ers beat the Lions, and then in the regular season finale, they'll need the Vikings to beat the Lions, and Philadelphia will have to win out, as I mentioned. So things are going against them, but looks like the Birds are going to lock down that number 2 seed. It's not a bad place to be. This game also, though, especially going to be difficult because we don't know who the Eagles starting quarterback is going to be. Jalen Hurts has to clear concussion protocol. Kenny Pickett has a rib injury. He did say to the reporters today on Tuesday, as I'm recording this, that he feels fine, but his status is unknown, as is Jalen Hurts' status. Could we see the third-string quarterback, Tanner McKee, in this football game? Because you never know how players are going to respond off of concussions. Everybody is different. Players can return the game after they suffer a concussion. They can be out for multiple weeks. Hopefully with Hurts, you saw him suffer that injury. He did stagger a little bit. He got up. He gave a thumbs up to the official. And hopefully it wasn't one of those concussions that's really bad like we've seen oftentimes throughout the course of NFL history. You just never know. What we do know, Philadelphia really missed Hurts in that game against Washington. 12 possessions started with Kenny Pickett. The Eagles only scored 19 points, 6 points off those final 4 turnovers, as I had said. And there were 2 possessions that started with Jalen Hurts, and they netted 14 points. It looked as though this game was heading in the direction of being a blowout in favor of Philadelphia. Saquon Barkley, he started off hot, 101 rushing yards in that first quarter. He finished with 150 rushing yards. So once Hurts went out, and after that 68-yard rushing touchdown in which Saquon was untouched, great pull block by Mekhi Becton, great block to that second level by C.J. Uzomah, what the Commanders did was they changed their defensive game plan. They begged Kenny Pickett to throw it, and they said, if you're going to run it, you're going to have to do it against a stacked and loaded box. And Philadelphia couldn't do that, and their offensive line, I thought, struggled a little bit with the pretty physical Commanders defense. And we saw what Washington did. Loaded the box, would not let Saquon beat them. Kenny Pickett was not really a threat off the quarterback keeper on RPO plays. I thought at one point he should have just kept it, and I said that live during the watch party to keep the defense and the edge honest because the edges were just crashing towards Saquon, and that's part of the reason why we saw so many negative rushing plays after Hurts went out. And then in turn, Philadelphia became a little bit predictable with their offense. Pickett did a fine job, but he's just not the dynamic threat and dynamic player that Jalen Hurts is, and we saw why Hurts should be mentioned more in the MVP conversation, and we saw that this offense runs through and runs off of Hurts because they benefit from him and his versatility as a player. And so I think all of the talk of Hurts stinks, he's not good, he can't throw, that should be thrown out of the window. Hurts is one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Is he, a dynamic thrower like a Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes? No, but He's a power runner. Eagles missed him on some of the short yardage situations because they couldn't gain a yard on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. They missed him through the air. He has one of the top deep balls in the NFL. Their ground game really suffered without him. So he's a critical component of this Eagles offense. And with him out of the game, we certainly saw that. And we'll see what happens with who Philadelphia plays at that quarterback spot against Dallas, because that's going to change how the Eagles go about things on the offensive side of the football. Can the Eagles win this game if Jalen Hurts does not play? I want you to sound off down in the comment section right now. Just give me a W for yes, they're going to win, or L for lose. Get those predictions in right now. Today's Eagles Now, sponsored by Game Time. Christmas coming up tomorrow. By the time that you're watching this, it might be after Christmas. It's never too late to get a gift for somebody who you really care about. Hanukkah starting on Christmas. It goes for 8 days. It's the holiday season. So thanks to our partners at Game Time, you can get a special gift for somebody who you really care about. How about tickets to an Eagles game? They have 2 home games left against the Cowboys, against the Giants. It's also not just an app for sporting events. You can go to concerts, comedy shows, theater events, and a whole lot more. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. What time is it? Game time. Going to put that link down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment of today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. So my keys to the game here. Let's start off with Vic Fangio's defense. It's hard to play so sustainably dominant in this offensive era in the NFL when there are so many good quarterbacks, so many good offenses, so many good teams, so many good skill position players. And when you go on the road, it's difficult to win games. And that's one of the Commanders' biggest wins last week that we've seen over the last several years. And the Eagles were giving up less than 2 touchdowns per game during that 10-game winning streak. It's so unheard of. And so they were due for a game in which they weren't going to be totally dominant, and it's probably good to get that out of the way, flush it out of the system, and make some adjustments off of that to get primed and ready for the playoffs. But with that being said, defense has to play better really at all 3 levels. He gave up 36 points to the Commanders. Daniels threw for 5 touchdowns. There were some coverage breakdowns and lapses in the end zone on 2 of those Daniels throws, one of which was a game winner. They were undisciplined as far as their pass rush lanes. And because of that, Daniels is able to break contain to the right or left, or the Eagles would just rush for no spy, nobody at that second level. And so Daniels is looking at a bunch of vacant grass. And if nobody was there downfield, even if there was somebody downfield, he was able to take off and run. And that was one of my keys to the game. Like, Philadelphia had to have disciplined pass rush lanes against Daniels coming off that rib injury. And when he had that rib injury, back in November when these 2 teams played, he wasn't moving all that well. In this game, he wasn't Lamar Jackson fast, but he was still fleet of foot, and he's still very quick and dynamic with his legs. And so it's part of the reason why the Eagles lost that game, and Daniels was able to make a couple of huge plays happen with his feet. They couldn't get off the field on 3rd or 4th down. They were sloppy. There were penalties. It was just a weird overall game. With that being said, too, though, you're not dealing with the mobility of Jaden Daniels in this game, and that's going to be a relief for Philadelphia and Vic Fangio, because Cooper Rush is a statue in the pocket. He is immobile, and he's not going to make plays happen with his legs to the likes of Jaden Daniels. So if that pass rush can get working, and it was early in the game, you can get to Cooper Rush, you can force some giveaways, and him throughout his career, he's struggled against the Eagles. The Cowboys have rallied around him when he's had long stretches of starting. 2022 when Dak got hurt, this year when Dak got hurt, but he has not fared well against Philadelphia. He's played 2 games against the Eagles. His completion percentage is less than 51%, 32 of 63. He's thrown for 236 yards. His yards per attempt is 3.75. He's thrown 1 touchdown, and he's had 5 turnovers. The rest of his career, 11 games started. Completion percentage goes up to 62.5%. He's thrown for more than 3,000 yards, 6.8 yards per attempt, and 18 turnovers. And so Cooper Rush is not the player of Jaden Daniels, and Cooper Rush struggles against Philadelphia. You got to get to him. And if you do that, he's shown that he can turn the football over against this Eagles defense. Key to the game number 2, stop Rico Dowdle, who has played really good ball. It took a while for him to earn the starting role at running back for Dallas, but since he's become the starter, he's performed well, and he's run it really, really effectively. Now, against Tampa Bay and that really good rushing defense that has started to turn the corner a little bit, anchored by Vita Vea in the middle, he had 13 carries for 23 yards, 1.8 yards per carry. He couldn't get going. But in the 3 games prior to that, he ran for more than 100 yards. Against Carolina, 25 totes for $149. Against Cincinnati, 18 carries for 131 yards. So in those 2 games, 6 yards per carry, 7.3. Against the Giants, 22 carries for $112. And that's 3 straight games of over 100 yards. And then the game before that against Washington, in that wild game that Washington lost in the final minutes, 19 carries for 86 yards. And so not 100 yards on the ground, but still 4.5 yards per carry. And because Cooper Rush is the quarterback that he is, the Cowboys need to be effective in the running game. You just do not want Cooper Rush dropping back 30, 40 times. He had to throw it a lot against Cincinnati, and that's a game that Dallas lost. Mike McCarthy really wants to be balanced because he knows that Cooper Rush is very limited. And so as part of that point, if the Eagles can take an early lead and if they can get this game rolling from the jump and things start to snowball for Dallas, it just plays right in the hands of Philadelphia, especially because that pass rush can pin their ears back and get after Cooper Rush. If Jalen Hurts does not play, you know what the Cowboys are going to do? Exactly what the Commanders did, trying to go all out and stopping Saquon Barkley. And so if Kenny Pickett plays, he's going to have to be more accurate and more consistent, better in the pass game. He's going to have to keep the defense honest by keeping it on some of those RPOs potentially. He's not a great runner, but he's a solid athlete. Like, he's not as slow as Nick Foles or Tanner McKee. He has some giddy up to his legs, and he operates primarily out of the shotgun. And so if the Cowboys are just crashing on that Saquon run out of the shotgun, and you see them crashing once again, keep it around the corner to keep that defense aware of that. I also think that Kellen Moore is going to need to get creative in short yardage situations. When it comes to 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, you don't have Hurts for that brotherly shove if he can't play. Find other ways to make it happen. You know, I wasn't a big fan in the red zone of the Saquon Barkley Wildcat, but who else can you put under center? Can you put Tanner McKee under center? Can he run the brotherly shove? Can you put Saquon under center? Shoot, can you have Jordan Mailata as a fullback and do something creative like that? Like, get creative in some of these short yardage calls. The Eagles, and I know this sounds so, casual and so cliche, but they're going to have to avoid turnovers. Like, they just lost when they won the turnover battle 5-1. But this Cowboys defense has been attacking the football and forcing turnovers. They've forced 12 takeaways in their last 5 games. They forced 15 takeaways in their last 7. And in the first 8 games of the year, they forced only 6 takeaways. The Eagles won the turnover battle against Dallas back when they played earlier this year. I want to say they generated, 5 turnovers on the day? Jalen Hurts had that end zone interception on the great play by Trayvon Diggs. But since then, really was the turnaround of Dallas starting to win the turnover battle. So those are my keys to the game. Who you got? Predict the score down in the comment section. I'm going with the Eagles 26-22. So many unknowns because you just don't know if Jalen Hurts is going to play in this game. But as of right now, whether he plays or he doesn't, Eagles are a more talented team, but the Cowboys have been playing really good ball, and there's nothing that they'd love to do more than right after Christmas, right before the new year, come into Philadelphia and deny them an opportunity of winning the NFC East on the road. And so this Cowboys team cannot be taken lightly. I know Nick Sirianni is talking about that with his team, but I still feel like the Eagles are going to win this game 26-22 as of right now. If Hurts does play and he's healthy, they should be able to put up 28 to 30 points. Hope everybody out there has a great Christmas. Have a great day 1 of Hanukkah. If you celebrate a different holiday, happy holidays to you. Coverage going to continue here on Eagles Now throughout the week, so be on the lookout for that. And don't forget to subscribe.